What if I told you that Dr. Robotnik of Sonic N fame was actually a victim of radiation poisoning which is tracked through the Puyo Puyo franchise? What if I told you Puyo Puyo is a metaphor for transhumanism personified through our ovarian oracle? What if I told you it was our Roentgen-slinging rabbi who was the sole cause of not only the Chernobyl disaster, but also Fukushima? What if I told you a trapdoor was in Howard Taft's bathtub and he re-emerged as Colombian sculptor Hector Lombana? Only 3 of these statements are true. By the end of this video, you will know which ones. It was Voltaire who once said one must define their terms before debating. Like an iceberg video, we must describe in excruciating detail what the viewer already knows. So let us define the terms on which this hypothesis, nay, this truth, is grounded.
Dr. Ivo Robotnik
Was born in 1963. Hold on, you may be saying. If he was born in 1963, he would have been only 23 when Chernobyl occurred. There were no workers present on the date of Chernobyl disaster who were 23. You are quite right, dear viewer. You see, Robotnik possesses the ability to reincarnate and shapeshift. How else is it possible that his appearance changes so drastically over the course of the Sonic franchise, if not that he is capable of shapeshifting? So, it is my contention that prior to 1991's Sonic the Hedgehog, he was in a different form. Who, you may ask? Former President John Fitzgerald Kennedy. This timeline is consistent with Robotnik's supposed birth date of 1963. In that year, the Warren Commission tells us, President John F. Kennedy was traveling in Dallas, Texas when he was assassinated by Lee Harvey Oswald. This is untrue, however. What you see in the Zapruder film is nothing more than a temporary rift in the space-time continuum. You see, conspiracy theorists will have you believe there was a second shooter. Where, you may ask? The grassy knoll. One may say, a green hill. The second shooter was, in fact, Sonic's first attempt at stopping Robotnik. However, Robotnik used the Phantom Ruby to stop Sonic in his tracks. This created an audio-visual glitch in which it appeared as though a shot rang out and his head burst open. But no, it was in fact Robotnik foiling another one of Sonic's plots. Realizing he had been found by the freedom fighters, he chose to continue his days in that body in hiding. And where better to hide out than the Ukrainian SSR? So, Robotnik in the form of JFK lived out his days there, eventually getting work in the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. Where's your proof of this? The astute viewer may now be asking. Simple. If you rearrange the letters in Chernobyl, you get Robshanail, which when translated into Ukrainian and back to English, means Robotnik. The history books tell us that the Chernobyl disaster was brought on by a loss of coolant from a power surge, subsequently causing a meltdown. If you believe this, I'm sorry to say, you've been duped. It was in fact the sight of Robotnik in JFK's body that made the workers at Chernobyl not pay attention to their work, which then caused this. And where's your proof of this? Perhaps you find yourself wondering. Do you really think I'd lie to you? After this catastrophe, Robotnik was affected by the radiation of the reactor. This event would begin the slippery slope of Robotnik's descent into radiation poisoning, the first effect of which being his transformation into what to you is classic Robotnik. Reddit user nerdy_Xbox_gamer expounds upon this in their insightful piece. Why did Dr. Robotnik shaved his head? Here is where events may become familiar. Robotnik moved to Japan to escape persecution by the KGB. Here, in 1991, he is discovered by Yuji Naka, inventor of insider trading, who makes a game with Robotnik in the supporting role. At this point, the beginnings of radiation poisoning take hold. Soon, Robotnik, now under the alias Eggman after his egg-shaped penis, starts morphing into a creature unlike himself. In Sonic 2, this can be seen evidently from him thinking this is a good machine to kill anyone. Further, his sunken, empty eyes on the cover. Now let's be clear, he isn't wearing glasses here. There is nothing connecting the two frames. That's just his eyes. This would become a theme going forward. He soon develops a new iris with these yawning pits for eyes, first seen in The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. It is my belief that the whole series is a schizophrenic delusion by Robotnik, and Grounder is an eerie prediction of Tony Blair, but that's outside the scope of this video. If there's enough support for an Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog and Neoconservatism in Britain video, then I'll make it. Moving forward, this series came with a tie-in game, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. Released on the Genesis, or Mega Drive if you invented colonialism, Mean Bean Machine was the first game to ever feature good gameplay. It saw no Japanese release because Robotnik canonically hates the Japanese. Mean Bean Machine perfectly merged the innermost desires of humanity, being puzzle solving and beans, into one outstanding package. The goal of the game is to link 4 or more beans of the same color together. Beans fall in groups of 2 and can be rotated according to the player's needs. Chaining multiple combos of these pops grants greater score and sends more garbage, stone beans which serve to interrupt the opponent's own efforts, in turn aiding you in victory over your opponent, which comes when they no longer have enough space to drop a bean. Where Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog is about neoconservatism, Mean Bean Machine is about the Zarathustrian journey of self-realization. The digital opera begins with Arms speaking to the player, who is Dr. Robotnik, babbling nonsense. Arms, in real life, was reciting Shakespeare's Sonnet 18, but the effects of radiation poisoning have begun to regress Robotnik's hearing. What if I told you, though, that Arms is not real, and the opponent is instead an allegory for frontal-temporal dementia? After hearing this, one may wonder about the symbolism of the gameplay loop, dropping beans into groups of 4. The popping of beans is actually meant to signify the deteriorating mental function of Robotnik, and with each pop of a bean chain, it is a synapse firing. As you can see in the above diagram, with each synaptic vesicle contains 6 neurotransmitters. These are arranged very similarly to the GTR pattern. In the GTR pattern, you chain beans together through groups of the same color dropping on each other, then popping. This is echoed in the synapse diagram, where groups of neurotransmitters fall through the synaptic cleft, binding with the receptors, thus allowing depolarization, in this case being neurons firing in mental microcellular reaction, allowing for mental processes to take place. However, quote, the probability that the single stimulation of an excitatory synapse will raise the membrane potential past threshold and produce an action potential is not very high. Therefore, in order to achieve threshold and generate an action potential, the postsynaptic neuron has the capacity to add up all of the incoming EPSPs based on the mechanism of summation, which can occur in time and space, end quote. So then, one pop, or even a chain of 2 or more pops of beans isn't enough to slow Robotnik's mental degradation. One must achieve a long chain to send enough garbage to the opponent, deflecting mental degradation, to win, successfully fight the radiation poisoning. There are 4 synaptic vesicles mirroring the 4 beans needed to achieve a pop, so it is clear that the gameplay loop of Mean Bean Machine is a metaphor for the deterioration of brain function, with the GTR pattern being divine geometry. However, you aren't offloading this garbage, neurological degradation, in a vacuum. The opponent doesn't take this lying down. They fight back, sending their own mental battles to your playfield, making it far more difficult to achieve progress in your fight. The opponent, frontotemporal dementia, is breaking down your mental connections, with the garbage representing the buildup of harmful proteins, blocking your nervous system's ability to communicate with the brain. Why frontotemporal dementia specifically? The learned viewer may now ask. Robotnik exhibits every characteristic of it is why. Changes in social and parasocial behavior have already been observed in his previous metamorphosis from JFK to Classic Robotnik and now Adventures Robotnik. Apathy?
Help! I've fallen, and I can't get up!
He was split clean in half, yet makes a joke rather than genuinely asking for help. Deficits in expressive and receptive language?
Snooping as usual, I see.
At any rate, the first level isn't too difficult and can be completed quickly. Moving on to Stage 2, we are now against Frankly, whose first line sums up the effects of frontotemporal dementia aptly. Sure, he will overcome the will to power exhibited by Robotnik, he engages with you in the gameplay. At this point, the dementia, the opponent, is becoming demoralized and is beginning to go through the 5 stages of grief. Frankly represents denial, believing it was the fault of Arms and not the strength of Robotnik, which is causing this halting of progress. A pushover for any Nietzschean scholar, we move on to Stage 3. Humpty is caught off guard by our fortitude and alludes to his own mental woes. The stages continue to get harder, signifying the increasing difficulty of overcoming dementia, especially with radiation poisoning exacerbating this. Next is Coconuts, a tongue-in-cheek nod to the reality that we're going crazy. Coconuts. The player will likely encounter difficulty on this stage, but with determination, anything is possible. Davy Sprocket is our next opponent. He informs us that the dementia is getting frustrated with its lack of progress and our ability to form coherent thought. He is thinking of new techniques to take over your mind. Davy Sprocket represents the anger stage of grief. And angry I'm sure he is once I've thoroughly beat him. Squeal rolls in, being a symptom of dementia, which is an increased appetite. I'm hungry, he says, for us. A hop and a skip of the neurotransmitter, and he's cooked. Dynamite comes as a reminder of our past, a common trope of dementia being a fixation on past events. This is a callback to the Chernobyl disaster which Robotnik was affected by. Tony Blair Sr. is next to bat, referencing the airstrikes perpetrated by the British government under Blair in Kosovo, Afghanistan, and Iraq. I have nothing to say about these next three, except this guy looks like Vega. Scratch makes a very poetic allegory that sooner or later we have to give in and cross the road to our new reality, the demented one. This is depression. Scratch sucks ass though, so we at long last get to our final point, ourselves. Robotnik faces himself, finally turning to introspection to try and come to grips with his frontotemporal dementia onset by radiation poisoning. Can he overcome this obstacle, or will he give in to the inevitable, inexorably losing himself? Would the defeat of his dementia even solve anything? He is dying in more ways than one, and this ultimately serves to give him a get-out-of-jail-free card. We end up beating him, but at what cost? As our base explodes, the beans rejoice? Why? Are they oblivious to their impending doom? Or are they happy knowing that they lived, and lived as best they knew how? This is acceptance. Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine would have been the greatest game ever put to the fiberglass if it weren't for its sequel. Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine 2, shortened to Puyo Puyo 2 because fuck you, is the second game to ever be worth playing, right after
Jordan Football 92.
Released in 1994, this is a continuation of the previous game's plot. The gameplay is more or less the same as Mean Bean Machine, except now you can fight against the garbage. This is a natural upgrade from the last game, since we have shown enough skill at fighting the dementia that we may now, with minimal effort, reduce and in fact reverse the effects, sending our own garbage. You may have noticed a glaring difference beyond this by now. The player, Dr. Robotnik, is represented by some girl who bears little resemblance to him. Mr. Handel, what is the low reason for this? Dear child, it's good you asked. You may be thinking I'll say that this is because of his shape-shifting abilities. No, you are mistaken. The know-it-all neuroscience student may have said by now that frontotemporal dementia is irreversible, and any attempts at reversal will yield only behavioral improvements, but not physiological improvements.
Nerd.
This is true though. In the series, you will never see genuine improvement from Robotnik. Each game tracks a stage of dementia. There are 7 stages of dementia. 1. No cognitive impairment. 2. Very mild cognitive decline. 3. Mild cognitive decline. 4. Moderate cognitive decline. 5. Moderately severe cognitive decline. 6. Severe cognitive decline. And 7. Very severe cognitive decline. The Mean Bean series begins at Stage 2. This makes Mean Bean Machine 2 Stage 3. Circling back to my original point, Robotnik at this stage is forgetting who he is. He sees himself not as Robotnik, but as an abstraction of the true self. His long reddish-brown mustache instead long reddish-brown hair. His girthy member instead of the fairer sex. These are all exacerbated by his natural predisposition to identity crises brought on by his shapeshifting. This form is called Arl, named after the high medieval kingdom of Arles. This will be the form which he takes on for the remainder of the series. Stage selection isn't linear as in the previous game. Instead, it cycles through the 8 stages, and you may either press a button to stop the cycle or wait for it to select one itself. Stage 1 in this playthrough fell on Will-O-Wisp. Much like the previous game, the first stage has nonsense for dialogue, and yes, Will-O-Wisp was, in fact, reciting passages from Spinoza's Tractatus Theologico-Politicus. With due haste, he is beaten, and we move on to Stage 2, Baramet. He apathetically speaks to us, and we once more show signs of cognitive decline. Ba ba black sheep, have you any L's? Yes sir, yes sir. Robotnik suffers a mental break in this game. After the introspection of the previous game, he has faced himself, and he hates what he sees. He chooses to take this self-hatred out on others. He indiscriminately murders all his opponents. Their faces frozen in fear and torment, they stand no chance. Is he even aware of what he's doing? Or is he a victim of his own body, simply doing as the brain-eating disease tells him? Is he at fault? And oh my god, did you see that? The true theme of this installment is not dementia, but instead divine punishment. Perhaps you haven't paid much attention to this character, but it is present throughout the series. Has Been is an allegory for the man upstairs, God the Father. In Mean Bean Machine, it operates as the gatekeeper, determining when you are permitted to play the game. In Mean Bean Machine 2, it acts as a deity, knocking down the Tower of Babel. We are journeying through dementia, coming to grips with our own humanity and mortality in the face of the Supreme God, the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, of all things visible and invisible. And laughs he does, for he knows our day is coming. We face the most wretched being imaginable. I see no heroes here. All I see is damned agony. Yea, the excruciating agony. The first angel blew his trumpet, and there came hail and fire, mixed with blood, and they were hurled to the earth. And a third of the earth was burned up, and a third of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. Finally, we face Satan himself, ensconced in Gehenna. Overcoming the sin and restoring the Dharma, we descend as Kalki to protect the Satya Yuga. The Tower of Babel falls. Has Been calls to the sun, a premonition for the coming storm. Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine Sun, released in 1996, is the first game to ever feature Japanese people, and after the destruction of the Tower of Babel in Puyo Puyo 2, we have lost almost all coherent language, and the franchise shifted to the language invented by Osaka. I have watched every piece of media relating to Osaka, though, so I will provide translations. Oral, wake up! Do I know you? Oral, we just found the wormhole at Dyatlov Pass! Wake the fuck up! Where am I? The gatekeepers are asking us for the passcode, Oral! Give me the book of incantations! Oral, quick! Oral, the book! Help! Huh? Oral, fearing for her friend's life, rushes to get help. My friend is hurt, can you... Why am I at Stonehenge? Finally, I caught you! You thought you'd be able to... Well, I'll hand you over to the High Court. Arl, in chains, is handed over to the High Court to answer for her crimes which, to us, are unknown.
Hello, I'm the only member of the High Court.
Wait, so you're the judge and jury? Who do you think you are? Cancel culture?
Wow, guy, that sounds like it'll be a really relevant and funny joke 30 years from now. Unfortunately, this is 1996, and I have no idea what that is. So we're going to imprison you for being a witch. So hang on, what the fuck? It's like I'm burning in hell or something.
Who do you think you are? Henry Kissinger? Arl is able to escape from her supposed captivity. Hiding in the mountains, she comes across another. Wow, it's a good thing I conveniently exposed him to ionizing radiation just now. Hopefully the writer makes that a consistent quality of my...
Robotnik!
Huh?
It's me, Yuji Naka, inventor of insider trading. Dr. Robotnik, we gotta save this doggone Earth. Come, I'll guide you.
So Arl, with Yuji Naka, inventor of insider trading, by her side, they explore the world, coming closer to their goal. Hello, welcome to the the nondescript summer camp group.
Tell him you hate the Antichrist.
I hate the Antichrist. What's this? Gah!
Great work, Robotnik.
So, Robotnik and Yuji Naka went through the Bohemian Grove toward their final goal. What their final goal is, we'll have to wait and see. Soon they come across a castle with evil energy radiating out of it. So, they decide they have to intervene. Well, we meet again, Satan.
Oh, come give me a hug. I missed you so
Oh, wow,
much.
that's cool. Hey, heads up!
Ouch! Looks like you're killing me and achieving your goal, probably.
Killing Satan and achieving their goal, Arl and Yuji Naka, inventor of insider trading, converse about their journey that they just completed. Well, Yuji Naka, we did it. Whatever it is our goal was.
This section was rewritten at 3 a.m. the night before this was posted, and he couldn't think of a goal for us.
Wow, 3 a.m., huh? He sounds really dedicated. Whoever is watching this should give him a like and a subscribe and comment how much they love his videos.
It's 1996, I have no fucking idea what that means. What is that, like GeoCities?
Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, released in 1999, invented the number 4. To try and market this, they make every cutscene in this game 4 minutes. Unfortunately, I am scared of getting copyright striked by Madonna for saying 4 minutes, so I reduced the length of every cutscene. Arl is headed to the Eyes Wide Shut party, when suddenly Sans from Undertale appears. I never played that game though, because Toby Fox sounds too much like Brody Fox, and he insulted my mother. Mr. Handel, you say. How can they possibly keep the series fresh after all this time? Simple. They added abilities, but you can't use them. So, you will get blown the fuck out at least 5 times on every level. I don't, of course, because I'm the greatest player who ever lived. This game takes place in 1666. Want proof? That was the moment Isaac Newton invented gravity. Anyway, this Cosmo ripoff comes in and challenges us to a match.
This is amazing! I feel incredible! Yes! I can win! I feel great! I can do this! Ah!
Holy shit, Ben drowned. At this point, you may be scratching your head. I was with you up until now, but I see no correlation with radiation poisoning in this game. That's probably because you're stupid. Tracks Robotnik's journey through hell. How do I know this? Well, all dogs go to heaven. See, it says right there. As best I can tell, Robotnik isn't a dog, so he goes to hell. One of the annoying caveats of this truism is that the dog from Air Bud has entered the pearly gates. Fuck that dog. But Normal is banished to eternal torment, so it more than evens out. What does this have to do with radiation poisoning? It's my video, and I don't feel like explaining. Anyway, at this point, we can finally use the abilities and... Oh my god. Now, some of the intelligentsia like to use deductive reasoning, but I like to use seductive reasoning. If you were previously on the fence about my arguments, just look at this hot mermaid. Need more proof? Good. Fading from black, we meet Satan, who looks like he fucking loves Joy Division, but I mean, who doesn't? We beat him, he sends us to Sine Wave Zone, and then, in an homage to the original Mean Bean Machine, we fight ourselves once more. Victorious, we meet God again, and credits roll. Now, Robotnik is on stage 6 of frontotemporal dementia. Severe cognitive decline. He has a complete break with reality, and it is in this situation that we find ourselves in Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, DA! Robotnik foolishly believes that he is a woman with the only correlation to his true self being the shirt he's wearing. He is no longer consciously doing anything, but instead is simply going through the motions. A husk of a man, one wonders where his soul will go. Perhaps he is already dead, his soul in purgatory while his body continues, like some macabre marionette. Hang on. His soul has left, but his body continues. Urethra, that's it! Robotnik has manipulated his dementia toward the final goal of a post-human existence. In the early stages, he realized the reality of his situation and chose to do away with his mortal body, slowly transitioning into a digital mechanical mind server. There is no Dr. Robotnik. There are only bytes stored in cybernetic pseudo-living computational hardware. My god, it was right under our noses the whole time. The front of being a scientist, the JFK assassination, Howard Taft. He's done it! Robotnik is all of these, yet none of these at the same time. The body tracked through the Mean Bean Machine games is simply the shell of Robotnik's material self, whereas Robotnik has transcended into Heaven's Gate, the final frontier, immaterialism. The last game, Mean Bean Machine Pop, is the 7th stage, the 7th seal. The organism called Robotnik, so totally degraded cognitively that it can't render beyond 240 by 160. There is no sun. There are no abilities. We were reduced back to Mean Bean Machine 2's functionality, yet even less. But my god, he did it. This game came out in 2001, the same year as Sonic Adventure 2. In that game, Robotnik is out on the space colony Ark. Tails shows that there is technology to create fake emeralds, fake organisms, which is what Robotnik is. That's what Robotnik was using the computer for, so that his conscience could be uploaded and exist within the Ark. But still there's a nagging question. If Eggman uploaded himself in Sonic Adventure 2, then who pissed on the moon?